We are connecting. Let me check on Instagram here. All right, and it looks like we are live on Instagram, and it looks like we are live on our other platforms. So, hey everybody, happy Friday, happy last Friday of February. Hard to believe that we're already 2 months into 2026. But welcome to our FinCrime Friday chat for February of 2026. We're happy to have everybody tuning in. Today, we're going to be talking about romance scams and the romance scam economy. So this is something that we have absolutely touched on in a lot of our other FinCrime Friday chats and plenty of our ACFCS trainings and courses and webinars. But we're really gonna dive a little bit deeper today. As usual, my name is Clayton Norman. I'm the social media marketing manager for Serify, which is the parent company for ACFCS. And we are here with the incredible Aaron O'Loughlin, our senior director of training, and Brian Svoboda-Kindle, our VP for product and programming. Great to have you guys here as usual. Before we get started, kind of the usual stuff. If you're not an ACFCS member, today is a great day to fix that, okay? Investing in an ACFCS membership is one of the best ways that you can elevate your FinCrime and compliance skills and take your career to the next level, help you advance at your institution or in whatever type of organization you work for. You'll get access to hundreds of hours of training, exclusive events, networking events, getting plugged into a network of incredible financial crime professionals from all across the globe. And as usual, speaking of from all across the globe, if you are tuning in today, drop in the comments where you're tuning in from. We already have Kathy in the comments from Virginia. Kathy, it's great to have you. Love to see that representing the Commonwealth. And drop those in the comments there. Also, throughout our conversation today, let us know your questions, your thoughts, your observations, comments about anything that we're talking about, because this is a community. We are love hearing from you and your insights, the things that you see in your daily work at your institutions and your investigations. Those are really important to us, and we love to see those and hear them and talk about the insights that you can share with us on the topics that we cover. So, man, a lot of Virginia today. I've got Luis from Virginia, Patricia also from Virginia. Lots of East Coast so far. North Carolina.
Virginia's representing. I was raised in Northern Virginia, so welcome, Virginia peeps.
All right, yeah, seriously, come on in. Oh, and Chicago, so a little Midwest. I'm in Indiana, so. Just down the road from Alyssa. All right, great, guys. Keep those coming in. If you're just tuning in today, I know sometimes people don't jump on right when we go live. We are going to be talking about the romance scam economy. But as usual, before we jump into that conversation, we're going to cover some recent financial crime headlines. So, Aaron, we're going to throw this one to you. This is from USA Today. The headline is, "Fake romance scams are rising. Here's how criminals are stealing hearts and savings." USA Today reports that romance scams are increasing in both frequency and financial impact, with criminals leveraging dating apps, social media, and increasingly AI-generated personas to manipulate victims into sending money or crypto. I'm having a hard time with my words today. Experts warn that scammers are using more sophisticated psychological tactics and payment methods, making detection and prevention more difficult for consumers and financial institutions alike. So, Aaron, where do we go with this?
This was a tough one to read, because us being in the financial crime compliance industry, we see this all the time, right? We see the money going, we see the money coming out. We're always talking about fraud. We're always talking about the hardships of what happens to victims of these scammers and who fall victim to the scams themselves. And we're human, it happens. And another heartbreaking part of this is that there's more and more of our elderly community are being targeted because of their vulnerability status for a lot of different reasons. And this article alone talks about the median amount of money for an individual that's been taken is $2,000, approximately $2,000, and it sounds small when you're dealing in large kinds of numbers that we sometimes do in our investigations. But 2,000 can be a lot of money to someone. It's a lot to me. I know it is for me, and that's the hard part of hearing that. I'm actually going to put in a link here to all. I hope it goes to all, because this article, the USA Today article, actually links to the FTC site, and this FTC site has a fraud report to it, the FTC Consumer Sentinel Network, and it breaks down incredibly granularly, if that's a word, how the fraud report subcategories come out. And so you can take a look there at how much money is going through to business imposters, family and friend imposters, government imposters, romance scams, tech support scams. So it's evolving and it's changing. And it's so hard to see all this and the money go up and up and up of people being scammed. And they're actually giving their money willingly to people who they believe that they have a connection with. And that is the heartbreaking part. And I don't say that in a way to make them feel bad. I don't say, because I could have been fallen victim. I'm no special than anyone else. I just happen to have my husband, and I don't look for that kind of stuff. But if he does pass and I become vulnerable, I could fall victim to it. So we want to get this education out to as many people as we can. We want to get these numbers out to as many people as we can, and to maybe it might inspire you to go to your local community's elderly center and start volunteering and talking to, or maybe even going, if you're in a FI or if you're in a fintech and you work in the space, maybe donate your time for a training course to tell them different things to look at, such as you get a random text from someone that says, oh, it's a wrong number. I'm sorry to bug you. I was looking for so-and-so because I'm an investor, or things like that. People are craving that need and that touch and that communication back and forth. And to know what types of things to look out for, I don't care how old you are. We're teaching our 13-year-old to do that as well. So don't ever talk to someone that you don't know is writing to you. That's called a phishing or vishing scam. And the more education we can get out to our folks, the more equipped they are to be able to say no and to walk away and to guard themselves. It's hard, though. It's a heartbreaking story.
Gosh, I mean, that's one of the things that's just so seems additionally brutal and cruel about this type of scam, is that we're really preying on people's need for connection in those moments, or people who are very vulnerable, especially elderly, especially younger folks. Diara had a really good comment there, and I don't want to spend too much time, but the one question I always ponder is what interventions from family or close friends turn into missed opportunities. The elder populations are more vulnerable because they're lonely and love to talk to people, and they like to invest and try to make their dollars stretch, which, I mean, clearly those two things where people are vulnerable in those aspects. I don't know, any thoughts on family and friend interventions?
Family or close friends turn into missed opportunities. So I'm not sure if I understand that correctly, but I think I talked a little bit about maybe talking to your elderly, family members, going to that senior center nearby, and getting that kind of information out to them. I didn't even realize I was addressing that, and DR put that on there, so that's great. And they are vulnerable. So I'm not too sure what missed opportunities means. Maybe they're saying something and that we're not catching on to it. That is so like us humans. It is that unless you're trained in a certain way to pick up certain terms, and I've just been lucky enough to be able to have been trained with the intelligence community, and then being able to see the money going back and forth inside as a practitioner on these firms. When people say something, they put words on a table, a proverbial table. That's how I was trained. We're going to keep this between in-house with us, right? Our members that are watching us LinkedIn, so don't tell anybody you're getting CIA stuff. But I was trained that when people say things, say words, they put things and items on a proverbial table. And if you don't pick that item up in your head and you're watching and you're looking at them, you don't pick it up and you examine it, or you ask further questions about it, you become curious about that object in your hand, that box in your hand that you're picturing in your mind, that is a huge missed opportunity. For instance, my mother-in-law could say something like, I wish I had someone to talk to as well. Or she hasn't, I'm just using this as an example. Or my own father. So my parents are both still alive and they're married, but if he wasn't, and he made a comment to me about it, constantly think to yourself, what did they just put down on the table for me? What can I pick up? And when you start asking more questions back to people, you get more information back to you. And that's one thing that you can take away. That's not in a spreadsheet. That's not in a transaction. That's not in a red flag. That's not in a device fingerprint. It's your interactions that you're having one-on-one. And I know we don't normally talk about that because we're not experts in it, but I do want to put that out there. That was a great question for the missed opportunities.
Great stuff. All right, let's move on to number 2, and there are some great comments already coming in regarding that. We're going to keep on rolling because we got a great, rest of our conversation to get to. So, Brian, this headline is going to you. This is about a settlement agreement between the U.S. Department of the Treasury Office, Office of Foreign Assets, and IMG Academy LLC. So, a type of school, it sounds like.
Yeah, so this is not on the romance scam side, but we like to give a little smattering of non-related news out there. I thought this was an interesting case for anybody on the sanctions side of the house. This was IMG Academy is a school in Florida, and it is a private school, focuses on like sports, and it got in trouble, penalty from OFAC for accepting payments for students enrolled in the school who were the children of sanctioned people in Mexico. I think these were cartel-related designations. So essentially, they were, taking money from sanctioned persons. But this was not a bank or a financial institution. This was just a school, right? Being paid for services. And there were some facts of the case that made it, a little bit more. Like they set up direct payment with them, and there were multiple payments over the course of a few years. But I think this really shows the widening of the lens of sanctions out beyond the financial sector and the need for sanctions compliance. And really just first step is just sanctions awareness among a much wider breadth of industries and even, beyond typical business operations. Than ever before. OFAC is taking this seriously. They are out there looking for sanctions violations outside of where they might have more narrowly concentrated in the past. So for the FIs in the audience, I think it also, kind of ups your risk profile of like, okay, what entities, customers are at risk of potential sanctions, evasion issues, right? It's not even your typical customer portfolio that might run afoul of sanctions evasion issues at this point. So both, the business sector as a whole and potentially the financial sector need to think about this issue more broadly than they have in the past.
Wow. Yeah, very interesting, that one, thinking about the wider scope of the sanctions enforcement. So, all right. Third headline for this edition, getting back to our romance scams conversation, U.S. seizes $61 million in dollars linked to pig butchering, crypto romance scam. U.S. federal agents in North Carolina confiscated over $61 million worth of tether tied to a large pig butchering scheme that blended romance scam tactics with fraudulent crypto investments, removing illicit funds from criminal wallets, still holding proceeds. Investigators traced victim funds through laundering wallets before the seizure, highlighting how AI-driven impersonation and stablecoin rails are being exploited in complex romance-linked fraud operations. So, Aaron, do you want to take that one, or Brian, do you want to jump on that one?
Hey, Brian.
Sorry, you want me to go first?
Yeah.
I'm happy to. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good story, right? It's an encouraging sign here that we're seeing these types of seizures, and this was a great one. Not to downplay it, but just today they actually announced, the DOJ announced a $580 million seizure of cryptocurrency as part of its, what is it called? The Scam Center Strike Force that the DOJ runs. And this is all in crypto, and it's all, related or allegedly related to scams, particularly scam compounds in Southeast Asia. So yeah, these are big seizure actions. I mean, I think it shows two things. One is scope of the problem, right? If there's 580 out there floating around in crypto for the DOJ to seize and freeze, then there's a lot more that's gotten through the cracks, right? But on the encouraging side, it shows the level of sophistication that law enforcement has really reached in the ability to trace and seize and freeze these assets, right? I think it also, to put in a plug for something we talk about in our DAX program, shows the traceability and the transparency of the blockchain that they're able to do this. And it's not something in which, there are cases in which it's very hard to recover assets when they're sent via crypto, but it's not impossible. And the fact that the DOJ is doing it, and even, in some more limited cases, we see like state and local law enforcement pursuing these cases, freezing assets, recovering assets for victims, should encourage more of it in the long term. I think that's one area where really there could be a lot more done. It's not something where just because it's in crypto means that it's gone and you can't ever get it back.
All right. And that is a great call out. If you want to learn more about digital assets, crypto, investigations in that realm, you can head over to acfcs.org, check out our training tab, and look under that. You can find our DAX course. That is our digital assets compliance specialization. Fabulous course stacked with critical information that you need if you're going to be working in this space, in the crypto and digital assets space, and designed by our team and some absolute leaders in thinking about these types of things. So definitely go check that out. And I know some of the people who are tuning in have maybe even already completed that. If you have, or if you're in the middle of it, let us know what you think about it. And if it's been valuable to you, we really love your feedback. So, all right, great, guys. So these headlines illustrate a troubling reality. Romance scams are no longer isolated crimes of deception. They're part of a sophisticated, globalized fraud economy. What used to involve a single scammer behind a fake profile has evolved into organized networks that exploit digital platforms, crypto exchanges, shell companies, cross-border financial systems. According to the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC, Americans reported losing over $1.3 billion to romance scams between 2017 and 2022. I'm sure that's probably only gotten worse since then, making it one of the most financially devastating forms of consumer fraud, with median losses far exceeding other scam types. Globally, the problem continues to expand, fueled by social media platforms, messaging apps, and increasingly generative AI tools used to create convincing fake identities and communications. Romance scams now directly intersect with AML monitoring, sanctions compliance, crypto tracing, mule account detection, and fraud prevention frameworks, placing financial crime compliance professionals like all of you on the front lines of this disruption. So, all right, let's start kind of at the beginning, or kind of in the evolution of the romance scam economy. Aaron, romance scams used to be viewed as simply consumer fraud, right? But how have they evolved now into these organized transnational criminal enterprises?
I like the word enterprises, because that's exactly what it is. They have literally gone from, say, 20, 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago, even the dawn of time, quite frankly. You get this one-off grifter talking to you, trying to sell snake oil, or is trying to sell anything, beachside property in Arizona, that sort of thing, that kind of grifter. Now it is, gosh, we're seeing literally scam compounds, which means labor and management. They've industrialized the fraud ecosystem, making it a full operation. It's a national security threat. It is a business model. So a lot of these romance and relationship investment scams, they're run out of the large organized operations, the scam compounds, the forced labor, and human trafficking. So they're bringing in all sorts of different other types of criminal typologies into one huge, large business model. And of course, we've give another shout out. We've been doing this a lot lately, to Erin West and her work on exposing these the physical compounds themselves, as well as, I think somebody said in the chat, GASA, G-A-S-A, the Global Alliance. Gosh, please let me know. I forgot. I'm having a menopause brain cramp on the
Global Anti-Scam Alliance.
Yeah. Thank you. Didn't want to disrespect anyone. Global Anti-Scam Alliance on that one, doing a fantastic job putting a spotlight on this. They also have a criminal supply chain. So they've really gotten down to a business level, saying one group leads, say, the social dating apps, another group leads the grooming, and they have training classes for that to teach these captives, the trafficked people, how to talk to folks, how to talk to the potential targets. They have another who launders the proceeds. They have a full division of labor. They have global payment rails about what they know they can use quickly. And the fact that the word quickly comes in there, our technology evolves and we get excited about it. Oh, now I can just go on my Zelle, or I can go on my Venmo, or I can go on my whatever. I'm not calling them out for any bad thing. I'm calling them out for a good thing. We're advancing in our technology, and that's what we're supposed to do as humans. But with that, if it's a good thing, then you know it's going to be a bad thing with it as well. And they've taken full advantage of the loopholes they can get into. They can work around. They blend in these investment scams. So you've got labor trafficking, human trafficking. You've got a criminal supply chain, and you've got fast targeting with these fast payment rails. I mean, it is a whole. I'm sure that there's some college students out there that can do their thesis on this and maybe win a Nobel Peace Prize for figuring out how to dismantle all of this, because it's been built up over the years. And that's how it's evolved, and it's only going to continue to evolve.
Wow, I really love the industrialized fraud as a concept, because more and more as we have these conversations, that connection just seems to get stronger and stronger and stronger. That these are these huge, organized, powerful organizations with a lot of resources and a lot of sophistication. Some really good comments that we had kind of during that. Luis mentioned that, according to some of the stats that I read out, that that 1.3 billion was only the reported amount, and likely much more has gone unreported. So excellent call out there, Luis. And also Patricia mentioned that pig butchering also has tie-ins to tax fraud as well. So interesting thought there. Would love to hear you share more about that, Patricia, if you want to. So Brian, for our folks who are tuning in, who are either in FIs or investigators, what are the most common financial red flags that institutions or investigators should monitor that might indicate someone is a victim of romance scam, or maybe participating in some type of payment mule activity?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I'll definitely get to that question, but to pick up on a couple of threads that you and others brought up first, last year, U.S. Treasury issued a report. It wasn't really a full-on report, but basically an update on Southeast Asian scamming that estimated U.S. citizens lost 10 billion just in 2024 to scams specifically tied to Southeast Asian scam compounds. So we're talking 10 billion for just Southeast Asian scams, not the full spectrum of scams. So I know your numbers were from a couple of years ago that we talked about originally. Shows you how the problem has massively expanded. And if anybody's been following this, I know we've talked about this quite a bit. And you might have seen like Cambodia's recent crackdown on it. Myanmar's military government recently blew up KK Park, which was one of like the original and maybe one of the most notorious scam compounds out there. So you might think like, oh, okay, they're getting a handle on the problem. And I think there have been some positive trends in that direction. But I think, if anybody's familiar with like the balloon effect that they talk about in drug enforcement, when you have a highly lucrative illicit economy, when you squeeze the balloon on one end, it's going to pop out on another end, right? And we're seeing that happen here with the people who, some of these people are trafficked. Increasingly, it seems like there's a trend to hiring folks and advertising things like full human rights in the scam compound. But where for some of these compounds that are getting shut down, there's other compounds popping up to recruit them, right? So as some see their business model get smashed, others see an opportunity to get a pool of scammers. So it hasn't gone away by any means. In some ways, I think it's decentralized slightly, but they're still building massive scam compounds in other locations. The Cambodian government occasionally comes in and shuts these scam compounds down, and then these victims, and I mean, we're talking like hundreds of thousands here of individuals who have been trafficked to do this work. When they shut the scam compounds down, these people are like out on the streets, right? A lot of them got their documentation taken. They have no passport. They're like stuck, and there's really not a whole lot of assistance for these folks. So not to be depressing, but while there has been some, positive pressure on the worst offenders, you could say, I think there's a lot more work to be done, and there needs to be a much more like holistic response on, the Cambodian and other government level to take this on. So hasn't gone away by any means. Problem, if anything, has expanded in recent years. The other thing I'll say for our non-US folks out there, we're talking a lot about U.S. figures and U.S. victims. By no means is this just targeting U.S. Persons. In fact, a lot of the scamming has actually gone outside of the U.S. to target. I mean, it really started targeting, like pig butchering started in China way before it ever came to the U.S. And targeting Chinese persons, I should say, way before it came to the U.S. and continues to target persons throughout the APAC region. One of the most lucrative scams right now, beyond the romance scam, is what you could call like the police impersonation, sometimes referred to as the terror scam, because they try to scare you, and that's primarily targeting Indian persons. And I read one stat before this call that in the past 6 years, 6.3 billion has been scammed from Indian victims by primarily Cambodian scam compounds, who in some cases are also doing double duty on romance scams and others. And that's a huge figure for India, where you think that the average, the median income, the median net worth is like way less than the United States, right? So this is a serious international problem, and the victims go way beyond U.S. persons. And India right now is getting hit really hard by the romance scam, the terror scam, etc. So, red flags. On to your actual question, Clayton, on red flags. Yeah, I don't know that they've changed all that much. One of the big trends has been the use of stable coins. So if you are in the crypto space in particular, and you see folks who are opening accounts, buying stable coins, particularly as Aaron mentioned, from certain demographics like older adults are still probably the most frequently targeted. However, I've seen estimates of anywhere from 11% to 20% of romance scam victims are actually in the 18 to 44 demographic. So there's a huge chunk of younger people, I'm going to say 44 is still young because I'm under that threshold. Younger people who are targeted for romance scams as well. So, in the crypto space, like monitoring for crypto usage, like unexpected crypto usage, rapid spikes in crypto usage, small purchases followed by larger purchases, followed by larger purchases in a certain demographic in a certain time frame, like that could be a red flag. On the traditional financial institution side, it's not that different. The volume and velocity is still going to be very relevant. Anytime you see liquidation of like what should be a long-term investment in a shorter period of time, you see a lot of movement of funds into an account that are coming from retirement accounts or coming from sales of stocks, bonds, etc., from somebody that doesn't have a past activity history of that. They could be at retirement age, they could be paying for their grandkids' education or whatever, but that is also potentially a warning sign coupled with other factors. So, it's a lot of the oldies but goodies that are going to help you out here. In terms of like new typologies, I think we'll get into that separately. But I think the biggest one has been the shift to stable coins as like the primary or one of the primary ways to collect money. Crypto was always popular, but it was Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum, maybe certain privacy coins. Now a lot of it is going Tether or like USDC, but I would say primarily Tether, USDT.
Great. Good things to be on the lookout for. If you want, again, just going to plug DAX. If you want to learn more about stablecoin and some of these things that Brian just mentioned, the DAX specialization program is a great place to get started. Also, Oliver just joined us from the Dominican Republic. Oliver, it's great to see you there, buddy. And Luis also mentioned pass-through withdrawals to DEXs for crypto as well, in terms of some of the things that Brian was just talking about. So All right, let's jump on to the next one. So, Aaron, we're going to toss this one to you. How are romance scams linked to larger typologies like pig butchering, crypto investment fraud, and human trafficking within scam compounds? We've touched on some of that already, but maybe just tie them together a little more for us.
Yeah, so how they're linked to larger typologies, it's basically the same industrial machine, different layers. So that's how they become the machine. So the first layer would be something like romance grooming for the person, first layer. They have to get that hook in for that person to even start talking to you. And there is that, like what Brian was talking about, pig butcher. Granted, Interpol has said things like, it's a controversial term that people use. I don't necessarily like it, but it's also the one term that people know now, and it's gained such, I guess you could say, infamy, or it's famous enough that people are starting to take notice, and that's important too. But Interpol has put out terminology like romance baiting. That might be a better terminology for it, because it emphasizes the relationship manipulation at the core. So they are manipulating you. So there's one mask. And then tied to that. So it's romance grooming tied to romance scam. And you've got the crypto investment fraud part of it. That's basically the second layer in the pig butchering machine that it is. So once a trust is built, the victims are then guided to fake websites, advisor dashboards, controlled wallet flows. The romance piece is the hook. The investment piece is the drain. And then you also have trafficking as another labor model. So that's a huge one, obviously. And they describe the compounds that Brian talked about, that Aaron West and Gassa is really putting a lot of light on. And they recruit these folks to these compounds under false pretenses. They coerce them into perpetrating the online fraud, going after under threats of violence. So we've been seeing OSINT search. You can just go on Google and see if you can find any articles about, which I'm sure you can, because I've seen and heard of the interviews that are out there of folks being beaten, sleep deprived, food deprived, assaulted, sexually assaulted, the whole thing. And if they don't meet their quota, or if they don't do certain things that they're told they need to do, but they were there under false pretenses. And that's where they get you in the compound. They take their passport. So you've got that layer of it too. So I think I've said it before in one of our other LinkedIn Friday chats. On Hulu, there's a show called Trafficked. It's fantastic. I don't have a stake in it. I didn't do anything with it. I have no commission on it whatsoever. But I love the show. Every episode has a different kind of crime that they're chasing, they're going after. And I can't remember the woman's name who does it. She's the reporter or the investigative journalist. She has a scam compound episode. And she talks to folks who are there now, who are either running it, or they're a manager, or they're one of these scammers that are talking to folks online. And I don't know how she's able to get to talk to them. They might not be in that compound, so I have to go back and watch it again to see how they were able to at least get these people that they were able to get sitting down with them. Their faces are covered, but they talk about how they don't have any other choice because they're poor. They're completely destitute, and they need money too. So there's a lot of different layers that go into this. That Trafficked show on, I watched it on Hulu. I think there's other places you could watch it on. That's a really good one to see the human aspect to it.
Yeah, that's with Mariana Van Zeller.
That's it. Thank you.
Great show. It is very good. Another really good comment from Patricia about kind of following up on the tax fraud piece was, one aspect seen in pig butchering tax fraud is evidenced by the fraudster requesting their online girlfriend or even ex-wives or girlfriend to provide them with their ID.me info so they can log in, file their taxes in their name, telling their person they'll also financially benefit if they provide the info, and they tell false info about the benefit that they will receive. So
wow,
just another great example, thanks Patricia, of kind of how complicated and intricate these types of scams can be. Okay, and I think let's move on to next question. We hit on this a little bit before, but Brian, let's talk about the role of crypto exchanges, stable coins, and decentralized finance platforms in laundering the proceeds of romance scams.
Yeah, definitely. I think we got into the stablecoin piece of it, and Aaron did a nice job of kind of giving you the flow of funds. But yeah, I mean, it definitely is heavily, not exclusively, but heavily done via cryptocurrency. So you'll find the occasional romance scam that's still bank transfers or even, money transfers via Western Union or other MSBs. Gift cards, definitely still a factor, purchase of directing victims to purchase gift cards. But I think the primary lever that they're pulling still is cryptocurrency. In terms of, how it plays out, definitely fake investment platforms are brought in. A lot of times these, in terms of like trends in the space, there are some indicators that awareness, I think, is both working and not working. Like our messaging, I think, has failed pretty hard on pig butchering, and our efforts like get the word out there. Um, but that's maybe a separate conversation and a separate question. Regardless, in some ways, I think people are more aware of it. But that hasn't necessarily translated into less loss. It's just translated into slightly more hoops that fraudsters have to jump through in certain circumstances. So definitely a lot of like what are sometimes referred to as wealth showing tools will be used in fraud schemes, which is a lot like in some cases AI powered platforms to generate anything you need to convince a victim. Could be a fake investment portfolio or a screenshot of different banks, Coinbase accounts showing the crypto holdings, etc. In some cases, it's like fake plane tickets or other things to convince them that you're going to come visit them in the romance scam context. But again, a lot of it is driving folks to what is essentially a fake investment platform that's showing crypto returns. In other cases, it's like an AI driven algorithmic investment platform. Oh, we're going to use AI. If you give me the money via crypto, I'm going to transfer it into, this commodities investment tool that's going to use algorithms to buy gold or something. In any case, it gets to the scammer via cryptocurrency, and the flow of funds from the US and from a lot of other locations is often through a registered exchange. They're directed to open an account at an exchange, link a bank account to it. All of this is legitimate, right? There's nothing wrong with doing any of these steps. But then the wallet address that they're being asked to send it to is obviously controlled by the scammers. So that's where you, in the legitimate finance world, can come and do something, about this. Is that the first steps, the first flow of funds is going to be all done on a compliant platform in a lot of cases, not always. Sometimes they'll be directed to set up accounts on dodgy exchanges, etc. But a lot of times it is all just, legitimate, compliant financial sector, whether it's crypto or fiat. In terms of how the money laundering plays out, yeah, I think Luis made a great comment about the use of decentralized exchanges or platforms to do swaps between chains. Partly it gets it into potentially another type of coin that they might want it in for various reasons to sell on an exchange. Partly it might be to attempt to break the money laundering trail. So moving it across chains can make it harder, not impossible, but harder for investigators to follow. A lot of the, like cash out is still going through, for example, OTC desks. Some of them are located in Hong Kong. That was typically historically like a major destination for pig butchering funds was OTC desks that would accept the crypto and transfer it back into fiat. More recently, I've seen some coverage of like transfers back and forth for money laundering. So it'll go from crypto into fiat, back into crypto, and then eventually and the crypto will then be transferred to primarily gambling sites, crypto gambling sites, where it'll be washed at the gambling site another time before finally being cashed back out into crypto. So connections to gambling sites, and like if you're a crypto company and you have this blockchain analytics, you're able to see, even if it's like a couple hops, the coins are a couple hops removed from it, that could be a potential indicator of pig butchering or romance fraud activity as well.
All right, gosh, and we're getting so many great comments here. So,
Clayton,
yes.
can I? Sorry, I usually never try to do this to you because you're so professional, and I'm not. I really would love to address what Rochelle just wrote, and I love what she wrote about the young graduates targeted through fake job advertisements and lured with promises of tech and remote work opportunities. By the time they realized they were being used to run scams targeting wealthy individuals in the U.S., many said they felt it was too late to back out. Some admitted they desperately needed the income in an already struggling economy. I have such advice for you. Rochelle and others, if you're overseas, please take this and proselytize it to whoever you know, put it out on social media. There are legitimate overseas work programs, and they're usually sponsored by either the consulate or the embassies of those particular countries. So if you're a Thailand gentleman and you want to go work in Cambodia, you want to go work in Riyadh, or you want to go work somewhere else, in another country, my biggest suggestion is to go to the consulate or the embassy in your country, your locale, take the remote job placement with you and ask for any information that you have on this particular job. Do they know? Usually the embassy personnel or consular personnel, they know what's going on in their own country, and they can give you information on, oh, we've seen this before, or they give you advice. Now, they're not going to be held liable in case it is, because they're not perfect, but it's one of the first places to go to, because there are legitimate work overseas and work abroad programs. The United States State Department has one. I've seen when I was in Riyadh myself, way back in the day, maybe different now, but in Riyadh, most of the workers on the ground were Filipino, and they have a legitimate Philippine Manila Riyadh kind of workflow. They go back and forth, and it's very legitimate. Now, what happens underneath that, I don't know, obviously, but that is something that people know about. They have accountability. They have people that they answer to, and that one, from what I've seen and what we've seen, is relatively safe. If it's sponsored by a particular jurisdiction, it's probably going to be okay. But I would suggest having them go to the consulate of that country they want to go to, or the embassy if they're in that general region.
Great. Yeah. I mean, great stuff there.
I had to throw that in there.
Also, I have to call this one out by Luis again. One of the more interesting ones I've seen in my time in crypto fraud is the LSSC scam. Fraudsters even got Sean Spicer, former White House press secretary, to do a cameo video for them. A, I wish I could see that video. B, I think we need Melissa McCarthy from Saturday Night Live who impersonate Sean Spicer, who probably recreate cameo video. Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show like how far-reaching and how almost anybody can, in some way, be manipulated by these very elaborate scammers. So, as usual, we have a ton more questions that we didn't even get to, and we are pretty much here at time. So I want to give both Aaron and Brian a minute or two here to just kind of final thoughts for today on romance scams, what our followers, what ACFCS members need to do. Yes, Luis, if you can drop that in the comments on LinkedIn, please do. We would love to see that. I think that would be great to check out. But Brian, let's start with you. Like, to kind of wrap up, what should our members and our followers be looking for, and what in the coming year do we kind of need to be aware of in terms of the development of these types of scams?
Yeah, well, just to piggyback on the whole lightning shared scooter thing, LSSC, that was an interesting one because I think it ties into some of the trends we're seeing in the wider fraud landscape, including romance scams, right? Number one, using like celebrities and trusted endorsers, whether real or fake, using deep fakes. But there was a physical component of that too. It's like the fraud scheme essentially was investing in this electric scooter company. And you could get in and you could get like a share of, the company, and you could get certain number of scooters. And as people rented them out, the money was supposed to go back to you. But there's a physical component of it where they actually made scooters. They actually had scooters. They actually, some places in some locations, people involved in it or people tricked into it, like open physical locations. And that aspect of it also is seen in like the romance scam economy more and more. There are service providers, Aaron mentioned that this is like very much like a fraud as a service industry now. There are service providers who specialize in providing physical gifts for your romance scam victims. So if you need to send somebody in Miami like a Labubu, you know, or bring somebody flowers in New York City, and you're located in the you know, Cambodian scam compound, there are people who specialize in that, and they're active on the fraud forums, the watering holes, the guarantee marketplaces where these people congregate, and you can go find them. So you're communicating with somebody, and they're like, "Oh, Valentine's coming up. What are you going to get me?" You jump over to the scam forum. You're like, "Hey, I have a scam victim in Salt Lake City. I need to get them this. They like this." Boom, they take care of it for you. Um, Same thing with actually showing up in person. Believe it or not, there are services where you can get somebody, a US person, you know, like seemingly legitimate person, to show up, be like, "Oh, I'm part of his medical team and he can't make it," right? Like, yeah, you know, like he does actually have cancer or like whatever. "Oh, I'm his uncle and he's stuck on the oil rig." Like, increasingly, there's this old school con man aspect to it that migrates off the online platforms that people are, in some cases, increasingly suspicious of. But back to the point where we kind of started, of like, what are the missed opportunities in communicating with folks? I think where we failed a lot of times is thinking that we can come at this problem with logic and reasoning. Romance scams are inherently about emotions, right? It's in the name. And what is more powerful in your experience? Is it love and the promise of affection, or is it telling somebody that this article says that it's fake? You know, come on, you know, we come at it trying to get in people's heads and be like, "Come on, you got to think about it. Aren't you thinking about it? It's fake." They're not thinking about it. And you know, when you get into that situation, you're not thinking about it either. You're operating on your emotions and your gut. That's so much more powerful than your head. And to put in a plug for FinCrime Skills Summit, this is actually one of the things that we're talking about in the very first session with Becky Holmes, who wrote a book called Keanu Reeves is Not in Love with You. And it's about, you know, how we need to change our mindset about romance scam victims. She herself, you know, got targeted by romance scammers, went through it and was like, "What happened here?" Right. And she likens it in part, I'll give a little bit of a sneak preview, to domestic abuse victims, right? You don't tell a domestic abuse victim like, "Oh, it's not logical. You got to think about it." You know, that would sound crazy, but you would tell a fraud victim that. Um, and it's not, I don't think it's the right way, you know, I don't think that is necessarily the right way to approach it. So in terms of how to talk to people and how to quote unquote convince people, I don't even think it's about convincing people, right? We need to take a step back and create more of the emotional space for people to feel safe and trusted and heard, to allow them to come to us, you know, whether it's in our own family or as a financial crime compliance industry, right? And that's not easy to do. That's really, really hard to do. So I don't want to, you know, it sounds, you know, simple to sit here and say some stuff. That's extremely hard to accomplish. But I think we have to start by changing the mindset about how we approach it and get away from the sort of like fact-based, don't click, don't believe the fraud messaging that we've been using, because I don't think it's working that well.
Man, that is, I think that's right. Aaron, what are your final thoughts?
The heart is stronger than the brain, is what you're saying, Brian? Yeah, I love that. And we're having Becky at FinCrime Book Club as well. She's going to be going over her book, so I'm excited about that one. That's later in the year, though. You mean, what are my thoughts besides wanting to just go off the grid and go into a mountain with my husband, just creating a log cabin where we don't talk to anyone or see anyone anymore because nothing's real anymore? You mean besides that? Oh, okay. Nothing's real anymore. You've got to question everything. Basically, education. That's why they're here. That's why folks are here on this. That's why they're members. That's why they're trying to figure out how to stop this from the transactional perspective and then get the words out to those that are most vulnerable, not just the elderly. It's, gosh, our teenagers, our young people as well. You know, the demographic, as Brian said, 18 to 40. That's a huge swath. That's basically all of us. It's all of us who are wanting to find a relationship, to find love, find that hook for us, because that's a human need. And being able to pick up off the table what they put down and asking more questions, that could be a safe space to say, "Oh, you've met someone. What are they like? Did you meet them?" Not in a peppering them, and then learn in your own type of way how your own style can be for that person to have that safe space, to be able to say, what do they like? Tell me, I'm excited for you. And then you're showing them that you're bringing them in. Now, if they're a stranger and you're at a senior center, that might not be something you can do, but you can learn on your own to say, how can I practice picking up what they put on the table and asking questions about it?
All right, guys, as always, incredible conversation, such great information and insight from the two of you. And man, today, especially in the comments, so many great stories, comments, insights, from our viewers. This is exactly what makes ACFCS membership so valuable, is that when you join ACFCS, you become a part of a community that is committed to learning about, talking about, sharing information related to these critical issues that are really impacting society, financial institutions, and all of us. So thank you to everyone who shared your stories, who asked questions, who had comments. We love hearing those. We will put links to the different things that we talked about into the comments. Erin's link that she shared, I think, only went onto YouTube, so I'll make sure that we put that on LinkedIn. Luis, I can't wait to check out that Sean Spicer video. He put the YouTube link to that in there. Love seeing everybody from all around the world tuning into this. As Brian mentioned, upcoming, we have the FinCrime Skills Summit. That is going to be March 10th through 12th, free for ACFCS members. If you have not registered for that, go ahead and register. If you're not a member and you're tuning in and you want to attend that, if you go and find on our upcoming events page at acfcs.org, there's a special discount code for new members. So if you want to attend the FinCrime Skills Summit, level up your skills, hear about the Keanu Reeves Does Not Love You book conversation, which I believe is going to be our keynote. You can absolutely go become a member today. You can save 10% on your membership by using that code. It's on the website on our FinCrime Skills Summit page. Definitely make sure that you guys join us for that. Also, we're going to have an anti-human trafficking workshop coming up. I believe that's April 8th. Is that correct, Erin?
Yeah, Brian is running that one.
Yep,
Brian.
April 8th, definitely. Yeah,
April
and
8th.
Kevin Metcalf, who some of our super fans out there might have seen on past sessions, will be heading up that one along with a couple other SMEs. That's going to be a really good session. Definitely check it out.
All right, very cool. Also, we're going to be back next month, March 26th, for our next FinCrime Friday chat. We're going to be talking about your FinCrime career and the skills you need to supercharge it in 2026. Going to be sharing a lot of learnings from the FinCrime Skills Summit. So definitely make sure you tune into that. Oliver, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you keep an eye on the LinkedIn page today, because we have a new member spotlight that's going to be live any minute now on the page, and Oliver is our member spotlight for the month. So definitely check that out. We love celebrating you guys. If you know someone else who wants to be, or who is doing really great work, who is CFCS certified or an ACFCS member, we will also put our member spotlight form. You can even nominate yourself, just heads up, or nominate somebody that you know that's doing really great work. We love highlighting you guys and sharing those member spotlights. They're really great. Again, all the links will be in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. Erin and Brian, as always, it's a blast. Really love doing these. And thank you so much for your knowledge and expertise. Guys, we'll see you next month. In the meantime, stay vigilant.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, Glad.